Welcome to my bewitching podcast, where I take you on a journey to initiate you into the mysteries and pleasures of all things magical and more. I'm Julie Nelson, Rich Witch, botanical perfumer, astrologer, and creator of the Fragrant Oracle. I'll discuss a myriad of topics passionately on women rising unapologetically, witchcraft, including spells, rituals, insightful astrology updates, and oracle card readings. I'll also introduce you to special guests who share their bountiful knowledge and experience in the art of witchcraft, the intuitive and healing arts, and being wildly unapologetic. Hey everybody, it's Rich Witch, Julie Nelson here, and today I have a very special guest, Vanessa Talbot. We've known each other for quite a few years. She's coached me. We've done lots of work together, and I love what she brings into her business. And we're going to be playing with tarot. So allow me to introduce you to Vanessa, and we'll move on from there. I'm actually going to let Vanessa introduce herself. So over to you, Vanessa.
Hello, Julie, and thanks for having me.
Cool. It's exciting.
Cool. I introduce myself. Really simply, I call myself the goddess of radiance and influence for coaches and change makers, because what I love to do is allow and bring other people with their businesses, especially when they're coaches and change makers as yourself. You are a bona fide change maker, Julie. It's people like you that I love to raise up and make sure that their light, their glow is out there and bringing people into them. So it's very much the base of client attraction. So we're bringing people to us rather than having to chase. And in that, because I've worked with tarot and mystical stuff pretty much all my life, I was the kid that was into the ghosts while everyone else was into a show that'd be similar to Home and Away. I was the kid watching all the scary movies.
Yeah, I get it.
The freaky one. And so I started doing traditional sort of, business coaching for coaches, which I love, making sure that they, have beautiful businesses doing what they love, but also bringing in an abundance for themselves and not running themselves to the ground. But what I discovered was that I was really wanting to incorporate my mystical self into that. And I've worked with tarot ever since I was I think I got my first deck, which I actually have with me today, is the one I still use, at around 18 years of age.
Yeah.
So that's close on 40 years that I've been working with the tarot. So I started bringing that into my business some years ago, and then, worked out how to use the tarot, not for love, relationships and all that sort of stuff, where I would be asked to read as a tarot reader and as a psychic, but bring that into working with businesses and the amount of information that we can get around our businesses, around our purpose, our mission, what we're doing in the world through the tarot is just incredible. Like, I just think it's a direct line to the divine that comes through in these cards and these pictures that gives us insights into our work as coaches and change makers in our businesses that perhaps we wouldn't normally pick up on. Perhaps even it helps me as a business coach for working with people as well, because I really like to work with that mystical divine side to help us out as we're doing as our bigger heart work.
Yeah, I think it's actually really important. There's nothing separated, in my personal opinion. And I love tarot. I dabble with it, but I'm by no means a reader like you. And I've studied it several times. And it's something that I am delving back into, because I've kind of had this line where I focused on the aromatherapy then it was the astrology, and I'm so hooked into the astrology. It's so fucking powerful. It blows me away. And then bringing the tarot into that. And I've had the Wheel of the Year done with you, with the tarot, and it's fantastic. And I've still got it, and I look through it and I'm going, yep, yep, yep. And it's when we have that knowledge and awareness, we're able to flow rather than wondering what the is going on, and resisting, so we can flow. And it gives us information on how we can move forward. And it is about awareness, and there is magic in it. The energy, you know, I say it all the time, what we speak, we create. And with the tarot cards always come up with what we need right now. So you're going to do a reading for us, aren't you?
I will do a reading for the podcast.
Yes. And
so I thought we could
go
yeah, ask away.
I was
Yeah,
just
saying that.
We've got a lag, I think. It's all good. What I was going to say is there or maybe after the reading we can look at any tips or insights, probably after the reading, that you can share with us.
Yeah. So when I work with tarot for businesses, there's a few different things that I work with. I mean, the tarot, you know how the tarot is broken down to your major and your minor. So, and a lot of people look at the tarot and go, and I think people find tarot difficult because I think they think, you know, unlike oracle cards, you can just read the message and you're good.
Yep.
But with tarot, of course, there's a lot more going on. There's symbolism, there's all these different cards. And, you know, if you don't want to have the guidebook next to you all the time, which I really do suggest, throw the guidebook away.
Yep.
The thing about the tarot, people get a bit, I suppose, not scared, but I think they think it's too much to remember.
And they don't have to remember every word that's written in the book. And that's what I've learned. I did a course with you. I did one 27 years ago. I dabble with it. Is that looking at the key words and trusting your own intuition.
Yeah. Yep. And, you know, as I said, there's major, there's minor. And throw your guidebook away. So this is just tips for anyone who is looking at tarot. And I will do a quick reading on the podcast as well in a sec. But when we have it, like you're looking at the major arcana, which has got a lot of your archetypes in it. So anyone who understands the archetypes, you know, Empress. When you think of Empress, what do you think?
Oh, for me, I think ruler of the world. I'm an empress. she's you know, the feminine, it's in her own power, she's leadership. That's what I feel.
So when you get your Empress, you know, rather than having to bring out your card, you know, your guidebook and read what it means, like just tap into the archetype energy of the Empress and the position that it is in the card reading, and you will get a real good intuitive feel then to what we're actually talking about. The Fool. What do you think when you think of a Fool? Because that's another archetype in the tarot, in the major one. So if we look at our Fool archetype, what do you think?
Well, I always think he's a little bit cocky, but also willing to take risks.
Exactly. So our Fool is on the start of his journey and he's off. He's got to jump off the cliff, so to speak, and see where he lands. He's got to take some risks. He's got to venture out on the journey. So as soon as you know these archetypes, it just makes it so much easier for reading the tarot. So, of course, we bring those archetypes into a business reading, and that takes care of the majors. You know, there's heaps of archetypes in there. And then we've got our minor archetypes, our minor arcana. And what you'll love about this, Julie, is it's divided into the 4 elements.
Yes.
So, yes, of course, it's cups. Of course, it's wands. Of course, it's the coins or pentacles. And the last one, of course, is the swords. But when you bring that down, and that's how people remember them. But one of the most easiest ways to know the tarot is cups is associated with water.
Yeah.
The wands is fire.
Mm.
The pentacles / coins is earth. And the swords, of course, leaves
Yeah.
air. Right. So when you do spiritual work, and, you've got witches listening, this is the Rich Witch podcast. So all you have to do is not worry about, oh, swords, what does that mean? But tap into that element. So when sword means air, you tap into that element of air, or you tap into that element of earth. And hence you can still throw your guidebook away because you're working with that.
I love that. Yeah. And absolutely. And I love working with the elements. So it's really easy. I'll just share one thing that, my God, I always get wands and swords. Like I always see wand as air and sword as fire. And I always get them back to front because that's how I see them. Because
I don't know what to say to that one.
no, I know, but maybe it's my magical fantasy thing because I see wand as being the communicator and it's putting something out there, you're conjuring something, and so that's all about communication. Whereas the sword, I know it cuts the air, but it's like that warrior fire energy. And so that's where I get tripped up, and I've really got to think about that when I dabble
when
with those.
When you dabble with the tarot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you know your elements, your tarot becomes easy. You understand archetypes, the tarot
Yes.
becomes easy. And the last one, of course, that's associated with the tarot is numerology. 1
Yes.
through 10 in your minor. So once you know the basis of, if you think about a 1, what's happening with 1?
Beginning.
It's the beginnings. That's right.
Beginning.
Yeah. So when you understand a base knowledge of numerology as well, you can then read the tarot, and you don't have to learn. People think, oh my God, there's so many cards here. How am I going to remember them all? But you don't have to. All you have to do is remember some knowledge of archetypes, or the feeling you get about an archetype, the elements, and most witches really know those elements, and they know.
Oh, absolutely.
So they'll get the feeling for that. And then, of course, a bit of knowledge about numerology, and then you can put it all together and you will understand tarot. So some people make it so difficult, but it really is just that understanding of what you're working with. So I always think tarot is actually easy, but that's how I work with it.
Yeah, and I think people get too much in their head, and
Absolutely.
they need to just calm down and ground, and their logic is going, I've got to remember all of this, but it's not. It's trusting when you tap in to yourself, your higher self, your intuition, your heart, your gut, whatever it is for you. The words come. I know I see the words floating around. Sometimes I get too many messages, and then you've got to cipher through and choose, and I think that's really important, is really learning to trust what comes to you.
Yeah. And what's so funny, is a lot of tarot card readers, they just kind of think that it's only stuck, that they kind of get stuck in reading for love and, that sort of stuff all the time. What they don't realize is that there is big money. So if there's tarot card readers out there listening, or want to be tarot readers, and you're learning it and you want to make money from it as a professional reader, business and big business people will pay quite a bit of money for someone who can help them with their businesses through their gifts with the tarot.
Absolutely.
And I know people don't often think of that. Oh, businesses is a really traditional things, and they wouldn't go for this stuff. You'd be very surprised. I know some psychics and tarot readers that might get $5,000, for example, to go in and help a business, and they might only be in there for half an hour for an hour at $5,000. And this is just a figure I know of someone who does it for $5,000.
Yep.
And their justification and the reason the businesses pay is because if they can increase their profit by $1 million or more, what's $5,000?
Oh, exactly. And it's the same with astrology. And honestly, not to offend anybody, but really, like, I can't be bothered with all give the reading. Who am I going to meet? Is my man going to come back? I know that might offend some
Why
people.
I got out of
Not
it.
my intention. I know, but it's so much deeper and far more valuable, you know.
I know.
If you
It
want
was
to meet a
always,
man, just go and put yourself out there. Or if you want to meet a partner, just go and put yourself out there. If you've broken up or he's met somebody else, let him go. Open the doors for the new to come in. Like, let's more seriously and to our advantage.
I don't do those readings anymore. I now only
No,
strictly read for people who are on mission. So, people who are out there to change and transform, because I see myself as the person behind them that lifts them up, so make sure that they develop their radiance and their influence so they can actually get out there. But yeah, I got very uninterested in reading for that type of stuff very, very quickly in my early days when I was in my very early 20s, and I used to read at
I
night.
won't do it. Not
Yeah,
even with astrology. It's like, what's happening in my relationships? And it's like, well, not much. But anyway.
will he marry me and how many kids will we have?
Oh my God. Sorry, people, but really, come on, let's open ourselves up and evolve and step up and be responsible. It is interesting though. I lost my train of thought, but it was about it'll come back, no doubt. It's all good. Let's carry on.
If you want me now to do, so now that I've given a little bit of understanding of what we're looking at when, the elements and numerology and archetypes, shall we have a look? And it's not for you, Julie, it's for the podcast. So we're literally going to read for the podcast as a entity as such.
Better be bloody good.
I don't know what we're going to get.
Oh, so let's see.
So what has to happen? Yeah, I mean, I did nothing beforehand to see. I just thought, we'll just pull these out and have a look on the podcast.
It's fun
to see what is there. So what I want you to do, Julie, while I'm tuning in to it, is I'd like you just to focus on the podcast. Just keep your focus and mind around the podcast, and just any of the thoughts or anything like that that are coming and going or sticking, dreams, challenges, you name it, energy that you're feeling, everything that's in there, just let it all rumble away in there. Do what you want with it. And my end should then be picking up some of that. So we'll have a few quiet moments, but we've got a few cards coming out. We have our cards. It's important with tarot to realize that it works on energy. So it's almost like that, the universe, like what's going on, it picks it up and it reads it for you. The thing about the tarot is that it's always right, but our interpretations of it are not always correct.
That's the thing. And the same with astrology. And I think of it as like a map. And again, it can open you up to possibilities and opportunities. And it's how we choose to read it or see it or receive it.
Exactly.
Very important to understand that.
And it's also important to understand with the tarot, it's about the energies around it. It's not really a future forecaster, but it allows you to see what the energies are, what's building, what's disappearing. And when you know what you're working with, if something's going away you don't like, you can actually change it. The tarot makes you aware of the current energies, but it is you as I'll say it, we're sorceresses of our own destiny, is one of my favorite sayings. And we don't have to sit there and sort of say, oh, that's what it is. No, it's what it is at this moment. It's what's building. If you don't like it, change it to how you want it.
Yes,
Uh,
use it as an opportunity to learn and grow, to up level. It's like
mm,
the transits. It's not set in stone, it's giving you the information. And then for me, I think of it as like, okay, if it's something I might go, that's going to be a tough one. So then I'll reflect and go, okay, so that means this is how I can work with this energy.
exactly right.
We can,
Yeah.
yeah, it's up
So,
to us. It's up to
so
us.
yeah, if we see, business might be flat for a while, not in your reading, I'll have a look at that in a minute. But say, for example, I see things are going to be a bit challenging, they're going to be a bit flat, then as a business coach, I would be looking with that client and their business saying, okay, we're going to have some flat energy. What are we going to use that energy for? Or how are we going to work within that time frame where that energy is going to exist? So if you are going to be feeling flat, how can we raise your energy during that time? So there's, and also, how can you work within the business? What can we be doing in that period?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, really, really useful information to know what you've got to work with.
Absolutely. I just love all of these because how I see it, like whenever, you know, I've done, like you teach tarot sometimes for business, and I've done other courses many years ago. And I get excited because I can always see either an essential oil or an astrology sign or planet. And it's like, yes, and an archetype, because they all merge with each other, and we can support each of these magical tools and divinations with everything else
Yeah.
that we have. It's powerful, powerful.
Let's have a look at our reading, Julie. This is for the podcast, the Rich Witch podcast. So it's not for Julie personally. It's actually for for the podcast as an entity. It's not even for the rest of your business, Julie. It's only around the podcast.
Okay.
So we have first up is the High Priestess. And of course, this matches the podcast, because this really is the essence of the podcast here, this card, the High Priestess.
Absolutely.
So yeah, mystical, intuitive, going down into the interesting stuff, the shadows, our higher self. It's all mixed up here in this
All the
beautiful.
mystical and magical and
Yeah, I love the High Priestess. So as soon as we get that, out of all the cards that are here, and there's
yeah,
a lot of
exactly.
them, of course you get the one that's exactly what the podcast is
Yes.
going to be about in terms of subject matter and everything. So
Yeah.
that comes there.
Also, they're like, yes, it's all the magical, but it's going to be focused on women rising unapologetically as
Yeah,
well.
High Priestesses.
Very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, our oracles, our High Priestesses. I love the High Priestesses because, back in the olden days, that's where men of power actually went to their oracle, which were often the women.
The
In
women. Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually
And
on
then
my altar right now, I've got the high priestess sitting
mhm.
there.
I love it because my High Priestess / goddess is going to be the emblem for one of my programs as well, the Client Attraction Mystics. And I,
Yeah.
yeah, got excited because I created my High
I
Priestess
saw
goddess.
that. It looks fabulous.
Yeah, so my designer is going to get to work on that one and create some magic stuff. So what we also have here is, now this is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Our High Priestess is crossed with the Queen of Swords.
Oh, Queen of...
So our swords, remember, we're looking at our elements. Of course, we're looking at our queen as well. So with these court cards, we're looking at our kings, our queen, our knight, and our page. And each of one of those court cards contains an energy. So our king is very dynamic and authoritarian, and a lot of stability to it, like built stability. Our queen is more loyal, even softer to some degree, and stable as well. Our knight, and you have no knights in this one, you've got really good stable energy here. You've got queen and 2 kings. So there's going to be a lot of stability around this podcast for sort
Nice.
of as well with our kings. They create dynamic empires, as
Oh,
such.
there's definitely going to be that.
Yeah.
And the
And
swords is communication because it's the
yes,
air element. So I see that.
yes. So you have your Queen of Swords, which is our air element. So
Yes.
you don't have any knights. So if anyone ends up with knights, it means that your energy is going to be very up and down. Knight is very variable energy, and you
Mm-hmm.
have no knights. So, I mean, there's a good sense of stability here for this podcast, which is good. I mean, you're only just starting it and going to build it. But the fact we have lots of king energy and some queen energy as well is looking really, really good for the building of this podcast and the stability of it for the future as well, which is great. And if anyone ended up with pages as well, which we have no pages in here, but again, pages is just really beginning energy as well. You have no pages here. So even this is great. It's great. So the Queen, of course, being Queen of Swords, she's very much about communication. She's also about the intellect and logic thinking as well. And so the reason that she crosses the High Priestess is that you'll need to make sure at times that you balance your High Priestess with your Queen of Intellect as well.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because I know, Julie, that you tend to love really intuitive and all that, but the Queen of Swords, she's more logical as well. So
Yeah.
one of the biggest challenges for you and your task with this podcast is to actually put logic and structure and things like that. And of course, it means communication as well, because that's what you're doing, to our High Priestess energy of the podcast. And
Yeah.
then you will have a podcast that will do its thing.
Yes, love it. And I know as soon as you said logic, I thought, okay. Oh, notorious for not being structured, and I know I need it. I'll get
Yeah, well, the
with
Queen
it.
of Swords asks, you don't have to have a lot of structure because you don't have any pentacles here. You've got a king and a Queen of Swords here, but they are thinking more from the intellect rather than the heart. So when we look at our swords, it's often coming more from the intellect rather than the heart. So, Julie, you need to put your business mind on for the podcast. And it's very important to have that business mind. And, I would say things like, who will your guests be? All sorts of stuff like that must be matched with not only your High Priestess energy, but also that business mind of the Queen of Swords coming through with this podcast. And your biggest challenge for this podcast to begin with will be to switch on the business mind and make business decisions around, the podcast in comparison to where you just want to go with it.
Yeah, and actually, I'm feeling that I'm doing that in the way when it comes to who are my guests going to be.
Yep.
I'm pretty clear about that.
Yeah, cool.
Because I'm on a mission.
I'm
very much on a mission. I'm not saying
we have yeah. We have the Five of Wands here as well. Now, this particular card is in the place of the core energy that's underneath everything, so it's harder to see. It's not an obvious energy, so it won't be always obviously obvious to you. The Five of Wands is very much about slaying the dragons and being up for that battle.
I'm up for it. I have a mission.
Yes. And wands is the fire card, so it's a very purposeful, creative energy. It's a big movement energy as well. But any dragons that you have, the challenges and all that, you will be up to slay those dragons.
Yes.
So I quite like the five. Five of Wands is pretty cool. Like five sometimes indicates struggle, but being in a place of struggle doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. It's a place most of us will always experience certain struggles at certain points in our businesses and in our lives, of course. So the five tells us that you're actually you're going to battle that dragon.
Yeah.
but you're up for it. It's
Oh,
not like,
I'm
yeah,
so up for it.
yeah. So that's really, really cool. Now,
Kind of
the next,
thrive on it sometimes, my warrior woman.
be nice, not have to be the warrior woman all the time, but
Oh,
it's good to be
exactly. In my
powerful.
mind, I was saying, but I, it's funny because I have to be able to step out of her because she can take over so
Yeah,
easily. And I'm very conscious of that.
yeah. I have it
Use
too,
my
Julie. I'm
buttocks.
yeah.
Yeah.
7 of Cups. So great. So what we have here in terms of the forthcoming influences. So this is more in your near future. So what's coming in the near future for this podcast? Like what is the energies that it has to work with, or the situations that might be coming through?
Mm-hmm.
And this is usually within, a couple of weeks at most, a couple of months at most. So 1 to 2 months or a couple of weeks. So it is the closest energy that's going to be coming in for this podcast. 7 of Wands. You will have, it's pretty much, with the sevens, is pretty much there will be a lot of avenues for you to take. And it may come down to, you know, subjects, guests, but it's almost like anything that you want to ask for, use this time over the next couple of weeks, a couple of months to really reach out, ask for the guests you want or the help you want, or whatever it is that this podcast wants and needs for its future direction. So with the 7 of Cups, also you tapping into your heart here, what you know is the right thing. So yeah, we have to match our heart energy with our logic energy of our Queen of Swords. And Queen of Swords is really asking to be seen and heard with this podcast. So that's the business mind coming through.
Yeah.
And then the 7 of Cups allows us to say, there's a lot of opportunities out there for me with this podcast. Now let me decide which ones I'm going to ask for and call in. So you need to use this energy coming up to work with that. That's a good energy for you.
I'm actually already there because, I'm that multi-creative person, which means I also have multi-ideas. And then I thought, well, it's going to be based around the rich witch, the high priestess energy. However, there are things that I see that come into that about women rising unapologetically and patriarchy and all of that I can put into little series in between.
Yeah,
So
cool.
I've been working.
Yeah, you're onto it. So use this energy wisely for that, moving ahead with it. So it's a good sign there. One thing I do with my business card readings is I look at the market or your potential clients. Of course, for the podcast, it's the listeners. And this is really interesting because one card, when I look at this, one card will tell me what it is that they want to, that they feel that they're getting from you right now. So when you look at Rich Witch and as a podcast, and then also what they need to get from you as well. So you can start to see this is what they want and this is what they need.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And anyone who works with me will understand the difference between want and need with your market.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, and even there I'm feeling pretty on par with it. They want the fluffy stuff, which I'm not actually a fluffy person, but we'll bring in the magic. But there's going to be some hardcore strength.
Oh my God. Wait till you see the cards, Julie, from what you've just said. Okay, what they want. So what they're thinking that they want, this is them, and they're obviously, I'm going to listen to Rich Witch podcast. This is the stuff I want. It's the Star.
Oh.
So they want that magic, that hope, that optimism, all that, stuff that makes them feel good and have hope for themselves as women rising and, all this stuff coming through.
Yes.
So you were onto it. I know what they want. It's the Star's not, fluffy as such, but it's definitely, on subject matter as such.
Oh, yeah, it's
probably expecting.
Yeah. I love the star. I love it. Oh,
So
definitely not what I would.
what's the bit that's going to actually move them to where they need to be? So that's our next card. The Emperor.
Oh my God. And I was going to say real and raw conversation. So yeah.
Yeah, so the Emperor is, he's that real, I'm building empires here, I'm taking over the world. I'm he knows what it is he wants to build and give to the world. And I think from reading that, they will be led by you in this podcast, Julie, to the conversations that, as you pointed out, that are going to be perhaps rawer and deeper than what they think that they want in terms of magic.
Yes, absolutely. And it's going to be a nice balance of coming from the feminine and the masculine, the magical witch and the Lilith witch, empress, queen, high priestess.
The good thing about the Emperor too being there is when you create this podcast and you create what it is that they actually want and where you're actually leading them to where they need as well, this podcast will go big because you've got the Emperor there.
Yeah.
So your audience will actually help build this podcast. It'll go bigger and bigger and bigger because the listeners will expand this podcast for you too.
Yes. Do you know, I was just having some insight with that last night when I couldn't sleep, and I just had this vision where it's going to really touch a lot of women, and I feel like it's going to fly because of the subject matter or the topics, and it will be a beautiful blend of the magical, spells and rituals and the wheel of the year, but it's also going to be real and raw conversations around topics that a lot of people, they have thoughts and feelings about, but they're not always open to speaking. And I'm unapologetic, so I will be speaking. And I've already got some women lined up that are open to speaking out loud. So, and they're not going to be, they're going to be fire and passionate, not angry. I may get anger come up, but that's okay. It'll be passionate, not negative. It'll embolden people, inspire them. Sorry, I'm getting carried away and excited here.
Well, there's a lot of boldness about this. We have our Queen of Swords, who is quite calculating, and she's bold in that calculated.
Yeah.
We have our Seven of Cups, like ask and look, and the opportunities will come. So that's good too. There's a boldness, there's some magic around the star, but there's just that unapologetic boldness about an emperor. They build.
Oh, empire. Absolutely. Yeah.
And there's a strong energy around the emperor. And I know some people think, oh, it's so very masculine, but I love it when women come in with that powerful energy and they combine that with their feminine as well. It works really well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I am in my life mastering. And that's where my beautiful Libra comes into with the diplomacy of it. Oh, what have we got? Oh, the Chariot.
So this one's in your hopes and fears. So in the hopes and fears place, when I look at businesses, this is often where we'll find our self-sabotaging happening with our businesses, because often what we hope for in some way, we're going to fear it. So we'll work out ways to sabotage us. So for example, I work with a lot of coaches and change makers who think they want to go out and change the world. But when they also realize the amount of visibility that comes with that, the minute they start to escalate, they'll often pull themselves back.
Yeah, no, I'm not afraid of that, but I also think it starts with coming from in, and that way we can then move out.
So you have the Chariot there, as I said, in the hopes and fears section. So let's have a little look at the chariot. You want this thing to fly. Of
I
course, I think we
do.
all do. I can't wait for it. And it's like giving it movement and just letting it go off on its own catapult with the chariot as well. So there's a lot of good movement with the chariot happening as well. However, with the chariot, with that movement, you must you've got the two horses in all the chariot cards. So what happens with the chariot energy is that it can be very easily disrupted. So you've got to make sure that everything stays online, on track, on focus. Because the one thing, can take you off in different directions, because the black horse wants to go one way and the white horse wants to go the other way. And I think in some, it's two lions sitting at the thing in some chariot cards, but in mine, it's the horses. Yeah. And the black horse wants to pull one way, the white horse wants to pull the other. And the thing about you, Julie, as the director of this podcast, the one behind it, is you've got to keep those horses on the one track, because if they go one way or the other, they'll pull your chariot apart. So it's almost like uncover, you've probably done all the work and it's interesting, but just have a look and just see, okay, what am I a little bit worried about with the forward movement of this? Am I a bit worried that I won't be able to focus it as much as I want to and move it? Just have a look to see what there might be.
Yeah.
The chariot can sometimes be a runaway train if it's out of control.
Yes, I think for me, yeah, it is about staying on focus. It's not that I fear it. I'm just very conscious of what I'm like, because I get excited and I can start going down different paths.
Yes.
And so that's why I've decided, like, it's the Rich Witch podcast, but Rich Witch is about living a rich life, a magical life, but I can bring in other elements that I'm passionate about. That it's not just about me, it's about the collective of women, and keeping it on track. So I think that's why the mini series in between are going to be good. So I'm not going all over the place, which I can tend to do. I'll bring it in with that bit of structure.
Yes. And often people who are prone to being very creative and therefore going down different places all the time, their creativity and their, needing to go places all the time can sometimes be the thing that they worry about as well. It's I want to explore all this stuff, but I worry because it'll take it all off focus. So the chariot is sitting there in that hopes and fears, and it is just something to be managed. But I'm pretty sure that you know how to manage it, and I know that you do. However, it's just an interesting reminder there, just saying if there's one way you're going to self-sabotage yourself, it's around this arena.
Yeah, and it's good. I love it when these things come up, because then it's, as we said, it's about awareness, how we can work with it. And this is a reminder for me. I'm very aware of what I'm like.
Yeah.
So it's great to have it.
And I know you are. Yeah. So that chariot sitting there is like, and the need to be focused can sometimes be what we fear as well. Because if you're someone who loves all exploring whole different things, this idea of I've got to focus can be sometimes quite something that they fear as well, even though it's the thing that's probably going to catapult stuff for you. There's this fear of staying in one lane only as well. So all these are the type of things that can come up when you see the chariot, as you are for the podcast, in this position.
This is perfect, actually, and what you just said. Because one of the things, like, I know how much, and this is good for our listeners too, by the way, I know how much I need structure, yet there is an underlying fear where structure can hold me back. And so I've had to work with this for a very, very long time, where embracing it. I can't have too much because I feel like I'm in jail, and I fear being in jail. I love freedom is my core word. So, but it's good. And as you said, because when we come into that, we can then be propelled and fly. So it's again, it's having the balance, isn't it?
Yes, and that's what, a well-worked carriage being pulled by two beautifully well-trained horses aligned with each other does.
Yes.
But when we've got two horses, we got two horses that don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You can see how they pull the chariot apart and pull it up front. So I always look with the chariot, I'm looking for two beautifully well-balanced horses that are moving in unison together. And then a lot of that's got to do with the driver as well, keeping those. I know all this because I'm a horse person, so a lot of it's got to do with the
absolutely.
Keeping those horses in unison as well, and well worked and well balanced and muscled and everything to tow his chariot, and propel the chariot forward. So that's what I love about the chariot. There is a sense of you being the force behind those horses and making sure that they are in alignment and working forward to where you want it to take you to.
Yeah, and we don't want it too, like I'm just thinking too, I just had a vision. You probably saw me go all daisy then, because it was like, sometimes when there's too much structure, it's fucking boring. So it's just got to.
I agree. I don't have too much structure to my business either, but I know what I need to make sure is working well.
And you're so good at it.
Well, I need my freedom too, like you. I have to be outside with my horses every day. If I sat down and did a 9-to-5 job, I'd die inside. So,
me too.
Yeah. And so I didn't go onto my entrepreneurial journey to replicate what I would be if I was working for someone else. It's my journey, my freedom, and so I have some discipline each day.
Yeah, I have the discipline each day, but and my unicorns are a bit far away. So, and at the moment I see them every second day. So that takes up half a day. But I'm okay. Like that's fantastic because I'm choosing that.
Yeah.
And I'm a night dweller, so I'm a little bit more active. On the moon.
I used to be a big night dweller, but I've actually found that I've been getting up earlier these days and actually quite loving it, to be honest, because I spend a lot of the morning just on my mystical and witchy practices in the morning, and it gives me that time because everyone leaves the house. At nighttime, they're all here. So I've found that I've really carved out that morning time for doing my mystical witchy practice, and I love it. The moon is your final card here that we're going to look at. And I know the moon is your favorite as well.
She is
there as kind of the forecast energy that you'll be experiencing and working with and will affecting this podcast over the 6 months to 12 months. So what you're all building here is moving towards this moon energy. And when you think of the moon, and this again is a major arcana card. So again, we look at the moon and it's very much like, there's sun card and there's a moon card. And if you look at those archetypal energies of moon and sun, so sun in comparison to the moon. So when you think of moon, Julie, for your podcast, what do you feel? What do you receive? What are you getting?
Well, just thinking because the moon is associated to the element of water. She's a strong feminine essence, and she's about feelings and ice and healing. Very much about healing. And so the words that are coming to me then are like healing the sacred feminine.
Okay.
Healing and her going through her different phases. And right now what I'm feeling is that, we've got all this cosmic feminine essence and energy coming in, and we've had patriarchy and religions knowing that we've been rising as women, so they're fighting back. Well, now my podcast, the Rich Witch podcast, is going to help women to continue to rise in their sacred femme. And it's not about not acknowledging the masculine, because we all have it. It's the balance. And lots of things have come to my attention. I'm going off track here, but we will do podcasts about this. And I'd love you to be involved in it too, Vanessa, because you and I have similar thoughts. But yes, so the moon, really honoring the sacred femme and seeing her rise and be in her full bloom.
So there's the future for your podcast over the next 6 to 12 months. Exactly what you said, because the moon is very much that sacred feminine with the cards. I would also say, you work with the moon, so it makes sense that you'll also understand the cycles of your podcast as well, and it will go through the cycles like the moon does as well. And I think that's really important to understand. I would work a lot with the moon and attune it to my podcast just because the moon is there. Now, I'm not taking some of the more traditional meaning of the moon. I'm not even going to bring it in because I don't think it's relevant to this reading right now. I feel that is more about the podcast rising in sacred feminine energy, that goddess moon energy that's all coming through with it. To me, that's what it is about. And also, I believe, as I mentioned, I think you will understand the cycles of your podcast that it will go through. It'll be the phases of the moon. So there's a business reading on the entity of the Rich Witch podcast. And to me, I actually feel that it's looking very, very, very positive for you and for this podcast, for its future. And I think knowing that you are going to be rising that moon energy, that sacred feminine energy out there in the world with this, I just think it's wonderful. So I love your reading. I love the cards. When I saw them, I turned them all over. I thought, oh yeah, this is looking fab.
Oh, look, I love them too. They feel quite powerful. They feel me. They feel my podcast. And I have to say thank you so much, because I actually didn't expect to have a podcast reading. And it's excited me because, as a child, I didn't have much of a voice. I had one, but it was often shut down, and nobody can shut me down now. So the podcast is really awesome because I can speak, and we all have a
podcast.
Yeah, it's my podcast. So thank you. That was freaking awesome. So what I want to ask you is that how do you, like, we know that you do use the tarot readings in your business coaching. So can you just share how people can work with the tarot with you? Like, is it one-on-one? Is it in group? Are you still teaching tarot for business?
So when I work with private clients, I'll always get a business reading as part of working with it, because I want to see where their business is at. For starters, it's usually at the beginning, and then what energies are coming for it, so that I'm pre-warned, so that I can actually help craft their business to rise rather than be, bogged down by challenges and that we didn't know or didn't expect. So it gives me forewarning. So when you work with me privately on your own business, obviously that's part of it. We don't pull them out every session. It's not how I work.
No.
I'm very much a strategist as well. However, we do go there. If anyone does want just their own private business reading, and they're usually about an hour that I do them for, they're $170. And you can just come and we can just work through it. I actually read less cards for you, Julie, today, because we're on the podcast, and what I would in a full reading. Sure. So anyone can come and actually just have a one-to-one reading on their business. I do quite a few of them because people just want to know where they're at with their
exactly.
business. Yeah. And you don't have to sign up with me to get that done, meaning you don't have to come into one of my programs or working with me one-to-one to build your business, but you might want a reading. I've done a lot of readings for big names and all that, because they just want this bit. They just want the forewarning of it. So they're the two ways that you can do this business reading. In terms of me teaching the tarot, look, every now and then, maybe once a year, I decide to run the classes for around 6 weeks of teaching the tarot. And you're really going to just learn what I've been describing today, working with the archetypes, the elements,
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah, it's a good
energies of,
course.
page, knight, king, queen, and then also the numerology as well. So you learn to pace your way through then. And then you read like I do. There's no guidebook inside. I haven't used one forever and a day. Like, I don't need
Yeah,
to. I don't want to flip out a book and go, what's the Knight of Cups? And then read someone's definition and that. That's not me. But as witches,
not real.
we work with energy. We work with archetype, gods and goddesses. And I love the tarot deck because I actually does think it's very god and goddessy at time as well. We have our moons, we have our suns, we have our high priestesses, we have our empresses and our emperors, and you name it. It's all in there. I love
It
it.
is. It is. I love it. I love it.
Mm. And then you'll all be very proficient. Well, not all of you, of course, but some of you will be very proficient at working with the elements as well. So tarot card reading, when you really tap into that, becomes the magic it's meant to be, rather than these set, strict rules that the guidebook tells you, or I must memorize as much as possible for each of these cards. And people find it very challenging. And I think that's why a lot of people love to have their cards read, because they can't learn them themselves, because they get stuck into that, again, what we've been talking about, too much system and structure. So you can see I've added a system and structure, but it's a mystical, magical one. And then that allows me and you today, I gave you the freedom today to say, what does the moon mean for you, Julie? Because that's what you're calling in.
Yes, absolutely. And how perfect. It's like, honestly, I'm kind of bubbling inside with excitement. And what we'll do is put Vanessa's details in the show notes so that you can connect in with her. On Facebook, your group, Vanessa, perhaps share that now, or where you would prefer them to go to. But we will put all the details in the show notes. But if you want to share that right now, please go ahead.
I'm most active on Facebook for anyone who's a Facebooker. So you can just connect with my professional profile and just hang out with me, and you'll see horses, kangaroos, and everything else, and some of my mystical stuff as well. And then in my Facebook group, Coaches, Changemakers, Step into the Spotlight. If you ask to come into that group, please just put that you connected to Julie or you heard us on the podcast, and we'll let you straight in. We don't let everyone into my group. It's a fairly large group, and I'm actually trying for it not to get any bigger, and really, really filtering through the right people. But if you're listening to this, you will be the right people. Absolutely. So just put a notice there that you heard us on Julie's Rich Witch podcast, and my team will just let you straight in. You can hang out there in the Facebook group with us as well. It's not all mystical stuff or tarot. It's very much about developing your radiance so that you very, very easily bring in clientele with you without having to go down that line of all that hustle and chasing, which I just can't stand it. I can't stand that whole different story, but
that's another fabulous ranty conversation.
That is a rant when I think about the coaching and change makers industry being taken over by marketers. But yeah, another rant. So you can come in there and we really just talk all about that, rising your business.
Yeah, it's more business.
So they're my main two places. I'm not overly active on any other social media. I prefer to be a Facebooker. It's just where I like to hang out.
Well, we've both been there for quite a long time, so we're quite established on Facebook, which is a thing because of the time that we've spent there. So, and of course, you can connect in with me either personally with Julie Nelson or my Rich Witch group. And oh man, that was just so good, Vanessa. Thank you. And we will talk again on the Rich Witch podcast. Who knows what might come up, but it's going to be fun.
So many things.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And so thank you for joining us. Thank you to our listeners. And you can comment and ask questions or follow us. And yeah, this is pretty awesome. I'm excited. I'm so fucking excited about that.
Oh, your podcast. Yeah, your podcast.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Okay, so
I know you so well too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So we're going to say bye for now, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye, Rich Witches. There is something so evocative about the power and pleasure of scent and what it conjures from within us. Mother Earth speaks to you through her flowers and trees, herbs and fruits. You feel a deep connection rising from within you when you are tuned into her magic. You've experienced her enchantment, and now you're ready to be inspired by the fragrant oracle. These cards carry the essence of woman, of the world, both ancient and modern, witches, priestesses, goddesses, the essence of you. As I introduce you to each of these cards, think of them as your companion to rising unapologetically in your divine feminine essence to support you in creating magic in your life. Unleash your goddess essence and weave your magic. The Fragrant Oracle is a set of divination cards featuring 44 essential oils. Exotic plants and flowers are represented in images that evoke and assist you to tap into their deep, enchanting meanings. These luscious oracle cards are inspired by my passion for botanical perfumery and magic. And while you can use them in tandem with essential oils, this isn't necessary, which means they're perfect for people who are sensitive to scents. Through the cards, you can access all the pleasure and power of these 44 essential oils and their magical archetypal energies. Each card has key associations for accessing, conjuring, and affirming qualities reflected in you. How to use each card and the beautiful fragrant essence they symbolize. Hold them in your hand, hold them close to your heart, and ask for the essence that will support you throughout your day or week. Trust what comes. Tap into the magical messages that are gifted to you. You can pick up to 3 cards daily, weekly, monthly. And together, these create a blend which helps you to tap into the essence of your signature scent. Create a sacred space, enjoy some background music, light some candles, and sit with your chosen cards. Write any words, thoughts, or feelings that come up for you. Within these musings is a beautiful message for you to embrace. If you have your own collection of essential oils, use these cards to assist you in creating a beautiful scented blend to support you to manifest your desires. Today's scented goddess is a sublime, magnetic aroma. She moves with heavenly forces to invoke the grace of the goddess, serving as a channel for spiritual inspiration. A truly enchanting and evocative scent that arouses the soul from deep within. Baronia. I am here to gently awaken your spirit and deepen your connection to self, encouraging you to accept and evoke your gifts of imagination, patience, and endurance. When necessary, be bold and impassioned when facing difficult times. Hear my whispers and know that all is working in your favor. It is time to trust your own evolution, trust your intuition, and allow yourself to be in flow with all that is. Try these empowering affirmations to invoke your true goddess energy. I am centered and calm. I am resilient. I am open to receiving opportunities for my highest good and the good of all. I am prosperous. I am bold. To purchase your luscious, fragrant oracle deck, I've included the link below in the comments section. And always feel free to ask me any questions. May you always be in magical, centered bliss.